Hello and welcome to Freight Logics Hub podcast, where we discuss the historical developments of freight logistics in East Africa. My name is George Kidenda and I'm your host. I'm honored today to have very prominent members of the industry who will be sharing with us their thoughts on the current situation in the port of Mombasa with regards to the congestion that is being experienced. I'm glad to welcome to our podcast today the gentlemen of the industry. We have the CEO of Kenya Ships Agents Association, Mr. Elijah Mbaru. Mr. Elijah Mbaru has been in this industry for a long time, and I think he speaks the language and he'll be able to explain to us many things. Along with him is another veteran, Mr. Gayo Ogambi, the CEO of the Shippers Council of Eastern Africa, and joining us shortly will be Mr. Fred Allo, the chairman of Kenya International Freight and Warehousing Association, KIFWA. Gentlemen, the port of Mombasa is in the news for quite a long time now for reasons that need to be explained to the business community. In January 2026, we have a very serious problem of congestion at the port. The vessels are queuing. We have a backlog of container backlog, empty containers, and we have regional spillover from Dar es Salaam. Of course, the cost impact on trade is enormous. Gentlemen, from your respective positions, how would you describe the current congestion at the port of Mombasa, especially now in January 2026, compared to previous episodes? Is this a crisis or a structural norm? Gentlemen of the trade.
Thank you, Bwana George, and thanks for hosting us. I'm privileged to be here with you and to share the insights. I think this is something that has been happening annually. Every year we have been experiencing this congestion. If you look at what we had last year vis-a-vis what we had this year, what we had last year was much more worse than this, especially looking at the number of the ships that were waiting and the timelines or the time they took to take the wharf or the berth. We reckon that currently the ships are taking the berth at the delays are 8 days accumulatively on the container side. On the conventional side, we don't have delays. I think ships are berthing after 1 day. We have acute delays in the bulk stream area, I mean the dry bulk and liquid bulk, because of also the upsurge of trade and the incoming of fertilizer especially. So by and large, I think, yes, we have had congestion and it has seriously impacted on trade, because you see, if it's because people are only looking at the port and the ships. After that, there's the vertical integration that is required. And the shippers also are bleeding, which I'm sure Mr. Ogayo will expound here. But if you look at the ship owner side of it, let me remove my cap of KSA and talk as an industry person. If you look at the ship owner side of it, the most expensive asset in this endeavor, in our whole maritime industry, is the ship. And I so believe that the ship owner is the most important person. And they say that the ship does not make money. It's safer at the harbor. But that's not where it belongs. The ship must be in motion. And likewise, the container is an extension of a ship. So as the ship moves, the container should move equally. And I'm sure you might have seen our plea to the port, which I'm glad we have been working very closely with. And we have come up with a number of measures of how we are going to mitigate this alongside the entire shipping lines. We have been sitting every month to see how we can unlock this. And we have also had another smaller committee to look at the empties. That includes the freight forwarders, the Shippers Council, Kenya Ships Agents Association, KPA, KMA, and the depots as well. So it's the shipping lines are bleeding, and it's a very, very heavy punishment for them when the ships are waiting.
If
you look at exactly,
I like it. I like it. I want to hear from a guy. Now, Elijah says the most important person here is the ship owner. What does the shipper say?
The most important person here is the cargo owner. He is the chief principal who provides cargo to the shipping lines. And the argument of the egg and chicken could come to play. If there's no cargo, would the ship still exist? If there was cargo, would the cargoes move without in the absence of the ships? But thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on this postcard. And I just want to go back to your question. Is it a crisis or is it a challenge? A crisis is unexpected, while a challenge tests the capacities and skills of the provider, so to speak. So to me, I consider this in between a crisis and a challenge, but with a bias towards a challenge, in a sense that the port throughput has continued to increase over time. This year, we expect the port throughput to increase by between 6 to 7%. Again, as a backdrop of possibly limiting capacities in terms of port infrastructure, in terms of the service providers' capacities, including the empty container depots. And that has resulted to possibly the situation we are in. But as my friend Elijah has stated, the good news is the concern is across the board, both in public domain and in private sector. And there's been a lot of discourse around how do we mitigate the possible challenge of what my friend has said, delayed berthing, inability to deliver empties at the empty container depots. And least is said about the cost implications to the cargo owners who have to wait for many days to secure their consignment. Today, we talk of delays and unpredictability in the delivery of the consignment. So in summary, I'd say we are in a big challenge, yes. The industry players are talking. The speed for interventions are a bit wanting. We would have wished that the resolutions were made yesterday. In terms of capacity challenges, I think it's a wake-up call not to use numbers as a flowery or a success factor, but to use numbers as a mechanism for planning for future, and we'll use the adage, supply before demand. We are told that the port throughput currently is what was envisaged for maybe 2028, and you are still in 2025, 26.
I take note, thank you so much. I take note of what Elijah said earlier on, that this is not the first time we're experiencing this problem. In fact, it was worse in the previous period. But let me take the opportunity to welcome the chairman of KIFWA, Fred Allo. Fred, we are discussing the current situation in the port, the congestion. Now, the question that we are asking is, from your perspective, how do you describe this situation? What are the issues? What is causing the problem?
Thank you very much, Elder Kidenda, and my colleagues, Mr. Mbaru, and the Duke of Rarieda, my senior Agayo Gambi. First of all, I would let me first of all start by apologizing. I've logged in, I think, 10 minutes late. I was having another meeting, which I informed Mr. Kidenda, so I'm very much sorry for that. Secondly, without being repetitive, I must admit that we are having a big problem at the port of Mombasa. Last week, I was in Dar es Salaam, And one thing I can also tell you, I observed what was also happening in Dar es Salaam port. I think they are also having similar challenge. But the challenge that they're having, I think maybe the difference, maybe they don't speak out loudly about the challenge they're facing as we do. And I think this is something that we must give credit to us as a country. Secondly, you realize that the challenge that we are experiencing at the port, it is not something that started yesterday. In fact, personally, I will describe it as a crisis. We all remember, many of us, I think we've been told in several fora that we have the problem of trade imbalance. That is what is really causing this congestion. But from my own perspective, from the research that we have done, the problem started with the Suez Canal crisis when there were those attacks on the vessels within this canal. And another challenge is also the Panama Canal also drying. This is one of the challenges that has also maybe caused the crisis that we are having. The political situation in October in Tanzania, where a crisis, maybe let me call it the artificial crisis, happened. No communication, internet shutdown, among others, are one of the few contributors. And like Mr. Agayo has said, the throughput that we are currently experiencing is something that we planned for it in 2028. So it is like it has caught us flat-footed. But again, one thing that I've come to realize with this challenge is that all of us, the stakeholders within the port community, we are like the body organs of a human being. If the toe is in pain, even the teeth will not have peace. So some of the challenges that we are having, there are things that I think we've talked about them, not now. I think from time immemorial. And one thing that we are also not saying, in as much as we want to blame the shipping lines, or we want to blame KPA, or we want to blame the agents or the transporters, the shippers, one thing that we must also come to realize is that the problem is also within the government itself. Because we have a government agency whereby if you go to government agency A, they tell you, no, it is not our problem, but you wonder, they are all in government. So it does not make sense. And then this is something that we also grappled with within the government quarters. The too many government agencies at the port are also a great challenge that I think we need to tackle properly. Maybe thank you, Elder. I'll make
I've come to the library. I've come to the library. And if I allow each library to talk, it will be it will be okay. But I want to ask you people, what is the single most misunderstood aspect of this congestion? Because I mean, you are talking of the hike in business. We are talking of the situation in Tanzania, but you are saying that we've had these problems before. Last year was worse. What is the main issue? What is the main issue here?
Maybe if I could go, Mr. George.
Yes.
I think the main issue is preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know at every end of year, maybe starting from October, there's a rush either to bring in the holiday goods and to meet other targets that are required. Like, for example, if you look at the situation that we are in now, we are headed to the Lunar Year next month, the Chinese New Year.
Mm-hmm.
And you see in the Far East, in Europe, in the Mediterranean, in India subcontinent, they needed empty containers badly because the trades between China and East and West Coast of the US is in serious deficit of empty containers. So in my view, I think it's preparedness. And I think the thing that we should do, we should replicate the ship to the yard. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by this? That the ship that comes, the way it comes, the way it comes, like what Bona Frederick has mentioned here, what the ship offloads is less than what it puts in. Albeit what it puts in is maybe 85% of empty containers. And mark you, these empty containers goes as, it could be referred to something like a dead freight, because the shipping line earns nothing from repositioning of empty containers. But they cater for that amount on the return leg when the cargo comes as laden, as import for the shippers. So it is to the interest of everybody, of all of us, not only to the shipping line, to repatriate containers as much as we can. The more containers we repatriate, the lesser the container will come to this location at lesser freights, because there will be no competition anyway for the boxes. Because right now you see where the shipping lines are calling, the post that they're calling is where the freight is more. You might find that our cargo could be maybe stationed somewhere in a transshipment port like Colombo, and the ships that are going either to Africa or to the US or to the Caribbean or maybe to Asia, they would opt to go to the routes that they earn more freight than others, and yet we are disadvantaged. By the time our cargo reaches here, we will obviously have that cargo at a higher price because of storages and other things in the other ports. So in essence, in conclusion, I think the issue is pre-planning, because we have all the data. When the ship is coming, we know the cargo she will offload and what she will load. And I think the other thing is the equipment at the port. The equipment are not commensurate to the cargo that they're handling, especially the yard equipment. The key equipment is sufficient. But even the cargo that is supposed to go to the great shippers of Bonagayo, because they cannot be railed or transported if there is no yard equipment. So it's a sort of a symbiotic relationship that you cannot detach one person from the other, or one arm of the logistics chain from the other. We are all in the same game, and if we all perform our roles, then we all gain.
I want to understand the role of the Mombasa Port Charter community in all this, because planning is not only one party. All of us are in it. All of you are key members of this the charter. What is happening? I mean, are you talking to each other? Are you talking to the government? Why would it be that we cannot preempt situations?
Thank you very much. I'd like to come in, and I also want to welcome my friend Chairman. We appreciate the work we are doing together in complementary role. We are not in any competition, and I admire this of the private sector. I would like to, if you allow, respond to the issues around why or what is a major challenge. And I think I want to agree with my friend Elijah. I think the aspect of preparedness is key. Planning is of utmost importance, and planning with the future in mind is critical. And I think whereas we have strategies, and I bet all of us have strategies, the failure to implement this strategy or even to resource these projections and strategy is something that we need to address. And that brings us forth to prioritization of our interventions. For example, I think from this, the big lessons for KP and all of us is to ensure there's supply of adequate resources, even as we anticipate demand. I think that is key. And then lastly for me on this is the issue about responsiveness, where we expect the regulatory authority to sanction and punish service failures. But in the absence of that, what the private sector ends up with is when there's a delay and there's a cost implication, we are left to either beg for a credit or a waiver, and there's no mechanism to enforce service delivery. So one of the gaps that we possibly need to do and address in the regulatory framework is a framework that ensures people take responsibilities and are possibly sanctioned for failure to deliver. Now, lastly, on the port charter that is 10 years last year, there was high expectation, and there still is high expectations for a coordinated framework and mechanism for monitoring the performances and also to ensure delivery of efficient services. There's greater understanding of the role of the Charter and the commitments. The challenge has been in respect to implementation of some of the key performance indicators that we have signed into, and that also takes us back to the area of sanctions and enforcement. Yeah. The best part of the Charter is, in a sense, that the government agencies have incorporated some of the KPIs into their performance contracting. The private sector is the demand side, and they have continued to demand for these services against the backdrop of a possibly best endeavor from the public sector and also limited resources to implement. Currently, I'm happy to report that there's a review of the Port Charter to evaluate and appreciate the import of every individual signatory vis-a-vis the commitment. So what we're asking of ourselves is, we're over 53 signatories. Are we all needed in the Charter, or could we have 10 or 20 but impactful? The 20/80 rule, which 20 agencies can give us 80% impact. So there's an ongoing review of this, supported by the Trademark Africa, and we're extremely grateful for that, and which will also give us a renewed Charter with renewed KPIs, and we are hopeful that we'll be having a re-energized participants on the Charter. In addition to that, we are doing a logistics performance survey just to appreciate some of the underlying issues that makes us be where we are currently. I submit.
Either you want to add something, or Fred? Because I'm still concerned, because this Charter that we are reviewing now, inside there, we put in, I think Gentrade was supposed to be the arbitrator in this matter, because everything starts through them when you do the import declaration form. They know at what stage everything is moving. We know when the problem is with the ships agents. We know when the problem is with the KRA. We know when the problem is with the Federal Laws team or Agayo Gambi's team. What mechanisms are there for us to hold each other accountable? Can you hold each other accountable for your failures? For the sake of those people that Agayo represent.
I think, George, if I may echo Mr. Gayo's sentiments, and I know that he's very passionate about moving the Charter forward. Unfortunately, he has been let down by others, and as he mentioned, out of these 53 signatories, are they all required? And to answer your question, and I think I'd mentioned this earlier, let us look at the segmentation of every player in the supply chain. Like, for example, the ocean carrier, which is our part. Our part is to, as the name suggests, is to carry cargo by ocean and drop it at the CY. If it's merchant haul, then somebody else takes over. Depending on whether the lines in question have also engaged themselves in the vertical integration. If, for example, the cargo is coming in the terms of TBLs, then the lines will still be responsible. So can we demarcate these roles? And like you said, I think the big brother here is KPA. KPA should be able to do this. Once the cargo is dropped, who is not picking the off-pick of this cargo from the port, either by rail or by road? Who is not playing their part? Mr. Allo's members not doing the documentation in time? Isn't KRA approving this documentation in time? We need to have a tick box and see where the lacuna lies, because definitely there are lacunas. Just to give you a small feel of this logistics. Like, for example, today in Qingdao, in a port in China, they looked at a ship's berthing, and they realized that it takes between 30 minutes to 1 hour just to do mooring by ropes. And they came up with vacuum mooring. and now they're spending 30 seconds. I think this is what we should be looking at. What is the truck turnaround time? How many rails goes to ICD per day? What is the off-peak of Naivasha and the other regions as well? And in my view, KPA should be the headmaster. He's a big boy. Thank you.
What role is the CFSS playing in all this?
We know that when this concept of the CFSS came into play in 2007, 2008, around that, the port was very congested. And we did this to decongest the port. And the CFS is an extension of the port. And I think our rallying call, and Mr. Gayo knows this, even currently, we have been requesting the port to move even the fresh, not only the old containers, even the freshers to the CFS, so that we can have that very much required yard that will enable the supply chain to be freed. I will allow Mr. Alo to, Mr. Fred to also comment.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I know my colleagues have talked. Maybe allow me just come a little bit before I proceed to the substantive matter that you've raised. First of all, I agree that we still have a challenge with the equipment that we are having at the port because with this growth in cargo throughput, you realize that we still have the scanner challenges. We still have the equipment challenges. These among others. So I think we need to put our house in order. And first of all, the KPA, like Mr. Elijah has said, is a big brother. As the private sector, we should be the voice of this government, because I know many a time when I cannot really fault the government. I'll give you an example with one of the critical entities in cargo clearance that has had a challenge of their system, a system that they use that was designed to be used for 7 years, but has been used for 13 years plus. So whenever we used to maybe pile pressure on them on our advocacy days, we later realized that the problem was not even that agency. The problem was Treasury. So we took that initiative as the body for the clearing agents and petition Treasury. And I'm very much happy in this financial year that entity has been, the government has allocated some budget to it. I know maybe the top management of maybe KPA, for example, they have made requests to the government to provide additional funding, additional budget. And one thing that I can say is that the onus is on us, the private sector, much as the challenges emanate maybe on equipment. We can petition the government jointly and Treasury so that more budget is allocated so that we also have the machines. It really beats, it cannot make any sense that in this modern day 21st century, we still have the port that has all the all that volume of cargo, the 41 million tons handled in the last financial year, 2.1 million TEUs. Yet we still have the scanner challenge. I think that is that one needs to come out critically. Secondly, let me just go back a little bit in regard to the PGS. PGS are very big. In fact. We need to do something about the PGS.
You should be saying, for the sake of our viewers, partner government.
Agencies. Sorry. Yeah, the partner government agencies in cargo clearance. It does not make sense. Why should we have 45 partner government agencies? We all know the critical agencies at the port: the Kenya Ports Authority, Kenya Revenue Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Railway Corporation. Those are the critical ones. Why should we have other agencies? Some of them do not even have staffs. Some of them do not even have the transport means where they want to go and verify some of this cargo. This is one of the challenges that we need to really face head on. Thirdly, on the PGS, I think there needs to be serious coordination among them, because you realize that PGA, Partner Government Agency A, comes up with a directive that these other partner government agencies are unaware of. So then there is need for joint coordination. And if I were to be asked, I think we ought to have had even one entity that deals with port matters, as opposed to having these too many agencies with the too much fragmented legislations, among others. Secondly, allow me to come on the issue of on the issue of the SGR and what it also does. I think the government should also take advantage and maybe not compete with businesses. If you look at the onset of the SGR, the concept made sense. It was to also help us in the decongestion of the port. And when it came, the enforcement was done through that commercial mentality with a view of competing with private entities in terms of business. I think that is where we killed it. We have the potential with the Naivasha ICD, good concept, has not been utilized. So we need to think about some of these initiatives. And even the markup, what SGR charges is too high, is much cheaper to transport these goods by road than the SGR. So I know we took a loan and we need to repay the loan, but I think a paradigm shift needs to be put in regard to this. Lastly on this, maybe before, maybe to just respectfully disagree with what my colleague, Mr. Elijah said. He said that the reason why we have these imbalances, why the shipping lines, still not all, but some of them have a problem with the evacuation of these empties, is because of this trade imbalance, which I agree is there. But you'll realize that when you charge freight, even the freight rates that are charged, especially for goods that maybe come to the port of Mombasa, the freight are paid with that mindset that I know that maybe I'll have lesser goods maybe having, because I know the government is trying to work on the DOP, the balance of payment, where we also are aspiring to ensure that we promote more of our exports. So I think on that one, I don't find it quite clearly right. And lastly on this one, as agents, especially the clearing agents whom we represent with this crisis, we have faced quite a big challenge with the handling of the empty containers. And these empties, we know the shipping lines have contracted the empty container depots. The empty container depots, I think the shipping lines need to do something with them, maybe to have some supervisory on them, because with this crisis, it does not make sense with all the queues that we are having, and you're told that there is no space in container depot A. But when you part with 3,000 shillings, 5,000 shillings, the space automatically finds. And that is why the regulator, the Kenya Maritime Authority, I think they need to come out strongly on this one. And as Kifa, maybe for the record, there's a letter that we wrote to Elijah and his team in regard to these illegal fees that they were also collecting in regard to this crisis. Because if you told me to bring back your property, and you tell me to come to your compound, and I've found when you locked your doors, why do you want to punish me for that? Because I'm not the one who has the key for your compound.
We will give you more time. We'll give you more time. We'll give you more time, Mr. Chairman. We'll give you more time.
George, you ignored me.
I want to hear from the shippers.
You ignored me.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to make 3 comments. You asked a very important question about the role of container freight stations.
Yes.
And what is their role under the current situation.
Yes.